studia può muoversi senza problemi nell'Unione Europea. Nella formazione professionale questo non è assolutamente possibile, perché non ci sono dei riconoscimenti, non c'è nessuna possibilità di interscambio. E quindi su questo è un po' un altro tema su cui lavoriamo con la G3, di riuscire a capire come riuscire a creare, forse dicendo in modo ambizioso, un accordo di Bologna della formazione professionale, cioè che permetta di cambiare velocità e dare una marcia in più anche a questo sistema, che chiaramente è molto, molto interessante, specialmente per l'integrazione nel mondo del lavoro dei giovani. Questo va anche detto, cioè dove abbiamo questi sistemi di disoccupazione giovanile molto bassa. Questo è anche un aspetto molto, molto importante da tenere in considerazione. E poi un piccolo aneddoto: la Val Poschiavo è un'area di frontiera, cioè siamo al confine con la provincia di Sondrio, e c'è molto contagi che lavorano in queste aree. Da una decina d'anni ormai la scuola professionale di Poschiavo, che è una piccolissima scuola professionale di lingua italiana nel Canton Grigioni, la metà degli allievi sono giovani della provincia di Sondrio, che entrano fondamentalmente, loro fanno una scelta anche abbastanza forte, perché decidono di lasciare il sistema formativo italiano, di entrare nel sistema formativo svizzero, senza avere nessuna formazione riconosciuta in Italia. Nel momento in cui loro dovessero a un certo punto voler rientrare in Italia, successivamente il loro diploma federale svizzero non è riconosciuto. Cioè, quindi su questo, però è una scelta abbastanza, cioè, significativa. Cioè, il mondo del lavoro, il mondo è già interconnesso, e non abbiamo gli strumenti per rispondere a questo. E questo viene fatto in tanti posti in maniera un po' diciamo learning by doing, no? E quindi questo discorso che facciamo in AG3 ci serve anche un po' a entrare in un'ottica di capire che strumenti possiamo utilizzare, visto che EUSALP è un forte strumento di governance da questo punto di vista, e adesso più matura anche EUSALP, più diventa chiaro che cosa possiamo fare in questo ambito per rendere il mondo della formazione duale interconnesso nella maniera migliore, e possa dare appunto anche prospettive per il futuro per le generazioni, le giovani generazioni, e per dare valore alla formazione professionale, che chiaramente è molto, molto importante per entrare nel mondo del lavoro, e mettere insieme formazione, aziende, no? Questo è un po' la chiave, dove non funziona spesso c'è questa difficoltà a far capire al mondo imprenditoriale il valore di una formazione duale in azienda insieme con la scuola. Quindi questo è un processo, penso che ci siamo avviati bene, e questo è importante. Però entriamo subito nel vivo. Abbiamo suddiviso appunto in varie parti questo workshop, e su come creare un sistema efficace di formazione professionale, efficace ed efficiente. Ho una conversazione con Monica Pillitu e Thomas Schott. Monica Pillitu è un'esperta di sistemi educativi e formativi nell'istruzione e formazione professionale. Lavora per la Fondazione per la Scuola, ovviamente strumentale della Compagnia di San Paolo, che contribuisce, diciamo, alla definizione delle politiche in ambito scolastico, operando in sinergia con attori istituzionali del privato e del sociale, per elevare la qualità e l'efficacia del sistema educativo in Italia. E quindi con lei e con Thomas Schott, che invece ha studiato Business Administration e Business Education a Innsbruck, che rappresenta in questo caso l'Ausbildner Forum, che è una cooperazione tra lo Stato del Tirolo, la Camera del Lavoro e la Camera di Commercio del Tirolo e austriaca, che collabora proprio nell'ambito della formazione professionale nel Tirolo. L'Hospital Forum è partner da diverso tempo di AG3, e con loro abbiamo già organizzato varie attività, e da 25 anni si occupa appunto di creare questo ponte tra le aziende e la formazione, scambiando esperienze e informazioni tra i vari i vari mondi. E professionalmente si occupa della formazione di 250 apprendisti, persone in formazione, per Emprise, che è una importante catena di supermercati in Austria, quindi è operativo, conosce proprio in una maniera migliore, diciamo, il mondo della formazione, perché si occupa proprio in un'azienda di accompagnare i giovani in formazione. E con loro appunto tentiamo di esplorare un po' creare questi due, cioè come riuscire a mettere insieme un sistema formativo per EUSALP e passo quindi subito la parola a Monica Pillitu, che ci può raccontare un po' della sua esperienza nell'ambito della formazione e anche quali differenze vede lei nella formazione, dalla sua esperienza, formazione professionale, confrontandola con gli altri paesi di EUSALP, provenendo dall'Italia, e quali difficoltà vede appunto per implementare un sistema di formazione duale, perché penso che avete fatto un grande lavoro in questo ambito di analisi anche del sistema, in questo caso italiano. Quindi prego Monica, se dovrebbe funzionare.
Grazie, mi sentite?
Non ti sentiamo un attimo, vediamo se riusciamo a sentirti in sala. Prova a parlare.
Prova? Mi sentite?
Posto?
Ok, perfetto. Grazie, buongiorno a tutti. Siamo onorati come Fondazione per la Scuola di poter contribuire alla riflessione oggi sul cuore del sistema duale, appunto a partire dalle sollecitazioni offerte dalla ricerca che è stata curata in collaborazione con l'Associazione Nazionale degli Enti di Formazione Professionale e il sostegno della Fondazione Compagnia di San Paolo. Una ricerca qualitativa dal titolo La valutazione dell'esperienza duale nell'istruzione e formazione professionale. Essa da un lato analizza gli effetti dell'entrata a regime del sistema duale avviato in Italia, in secondo luogo offre e condivide alcune indicazioni di policy che accolgono anche le raccomandazioni elaborate dalla Commissione europea per la nascita di un modello VET nel quale la formazione ha ovviamente un ruolo rilevante nella risposta resiliente delle persone nell'arco della propria vita ai cambiamenti del mercato del lavoro. La sperimentazione in Italia sul duale ha interessato circa nel 2018-2019 31.500 giovani, registrando un trend in crescita rispetto all'anno precedente e una stima prevede appunto per l'anno formativo 2019-2020 un ulteriore incremento di circa il 20%. La sperimentazione ci ha permesso innanzitutto di valutare tante esperienze diversificate a livello nazionale, rilevando una forte disomogeneità territoriale. Quasi tutte le regioni hanno puntato a realizzare prioritariamente in forma duale il quarto anno e utilizzando la modalità dell'alternanza rafforzata nella maggioranza dei casi, con una registrazione in termini di partecipazione ottima al nord, buona al centro e un sud invece purtroppo sottorappresentato. Dalla fotografia di queste eccellenze, di queste esperienze di eccellenza, trovano origine le proposte operative di policy, dalle quali appunto interessa partire per approfondire il tema di nostro interesse, come costruire la formazione duale. Primo, una molteplicità da valorizzare. L'effettiva personalizzazione dell'intervento formativo è uno dei fattori di efficacia dell'istruzione e formazione professionale, soprattutto duale. Come si ottiene? Si ottiene superando lo schema del gruppo classe e del curriculum uniforme, finanziando i servizi per il singolo allievo e sottolineando il ruolo formativo del lavoro. L'acquisizione infatti delle competenze richieste dalle imprese può essere sì favorita da un approccio work-based learning, a patto però che l'impegno lavorativo sia reale e non simulato, immersivo e pervasivo, per consentire la crescita personale e professionale. Occorre inoltre prevedere l'integrazione dei servizi di matching, ma anche la capitalizzazione delle esperienze che gli allievi effettuano al di fuori dei propri percorsi standard. Questo come adottando anche ovviamente soluzioni di certificazione di microcompetenze. 2, una semplificazione degli strumenti di placement e in questo ruolo dell'apprendistato. I dati purtroppo ci parlano di uno scarso utilizzo dello strumento da parte delle aziende, occorre quindi potenziarlo, supportarlo, in quanto può diventare veramente uno strumento è un modello di formazione aperto a tutte le età, estensibile anche ai percorsi per adulti, quindi in ottica di upskilling e reskilling. Occorre introdurre forme di flessibilità, incentivando la sburocratizzazione dei processi e in questo appunto provando a renderlo appetibile per i giovani e per le imprese. Le traiettorie di evoluzione che questo strumento, lo strumento dell'apprendistato, pur nelle differenze dei sistemi dei paesi alpini, stanno seguendo, presenta alcuni punti di caduta comune. Innanzitutto una progressiva integrazione nella struttura educativa e un riposizionamento verso l'istruzione terziaria e non accademica superiore. Poi un'attenzione crescente a quello che è il miglioramento della qualità dell'offerta formativa e dei processi di apprendimento e, come già citata prima, una modifica della capacità inclusiva dei sistemi duali. Quindi parallelamente alla semplificazione dello strumento richiamata prima, occorre da questo punto di vista migliorare l'immagine nei confronti dei giovani e delle loro famiglie con azioni di orientamento, e sul tema dell'orientamento tornerò anche dopo. Fornire alle imprese incentivi, strumenti e servizi di supporto per facilitare l'organizzazione e la gestione dei percorsi di formazione, costruire una collaborazione stabile tra le istituzioni formative e le imprese per promuovere una cogestione dei percorsi formativi e assicurare l'efficacia dell'apprendistato anche a fronte dei cambiamenti del mercato del lavoro, come valorizzando l'investimento sociale sul capitale umano. In questo le esperienze di mobilità all'estero contribuiscono non solo in termini di acquisizione delle competenze tecnico-professionali, ma anche di quelle trasversali. E le nostre regioni dell'area alpina presentano condizioni di maggior favore, determinate proprio dalla presenza di caratteristiche economiche e sociali comuni. 3. Creatività e competenze trasversali, tasselli importanti da valorizzare e da comunicare. Esse sono, le sappiamo, le cosiddette social o soft emotional skills, sono un fattore decisivo per la riuscita della persona nell'ambito della propria vita, nell'ambito sociale e in quello lavorativo. Quindi gli enti formativi sono chiamati anche a prevederne lo sviluppo curriculare e la valutazione. Questo perché affinché i giovani appunto all'interno dei propri percorsi siano accompagnati non solo da un punto di vista dell'inserimento lavorativo, ma anche nella scoperta dei propri talenti e delle proprie passioni. In questo sicuramente è necessario un cambio di paradigma che è rappresentato proprio da quella che è la personalizzazione del curriculo e un attivo coinvolgimento delle imprese. 4. Un'identità dell'offerta dell'istruzione e formazione professionale a livello nazionale. Scuola e lavoro devono coesistere e integrarsi, ma per far sì che questo assunto sia avvalorato, confermato in questo senso occorre una precisa identità e chiara anche dell'offerta del sistema di istruzione e formazione professionale. Oggi è troppo frammentato e poco capillare sul territorio nazionale. La programmazione dell'offerta formativa dal nostro punto di vista può avere un respiro triennale, un respiro più ampio e occorre garantire una simultaneità nell'avvio dei percorsi formativi, anche attraverso un'assegnazione di risorse per quelle...
Most of the time you have a 3-year course for work-linked training. This is what we should aim for, a program that really values skills with excellence. And we should have a continuous training. One should have a progressive career. Therefore, we need structures that allow young people to be supported until they have access to the labor market. Their integration is fundamental. Young people should be supported when it comes to choosing their career. They need to be more supported when it comes to choosing their work-linked training. Work-linked training is not acceptable and is not available for everyone. Not all young people are able to accept it or willing to accept work-linked training, but they should have the possibility to choose between a traditional path and a work-linked training, but work-linked training are not as popular among young people. There are two different models that
che si fa
we're able to seize the work-linked training system, the opportunity of this system.
Questi hanno potuto innovare l'idea di formazione professionale guardando al successo occupazionale solo come uno tra gli obiettivi.
Companies can offer trainings.
Questi dal nostro punto di vista sono gli elementi che dovrebbero stare alla base di un nuovo accordo
The
Stato.
new projects that can ensure access to the labor market, and this principle should be the foundation
che per il
of
periodo
different institutional players. The Declaration of Rosenberg for 2021-2025 states that it is important to increase resilience and excellence to promote learning, continuous learning principles, digitalization, and sustainability of these trainings. And in a context of uncertainty, such as the one that we are going through right now, increasing and improving people's skills is the best solution in order to foster the inclusion of young people on the labor market. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the ideas that you have put forward. It was really interesting. It is essential, I believe, to consider these options and solutions that need to be tailor-made and to be relevant and adapted to our reality. And sometimes the reality is really different from one region to the other. Our regions are often economic drivers of the economy, and therefore it is important to look into training and to focus on it. Now we are going to give the floor to Thomas. Thomas is going to speak in German. I'm going to give you a little bit of time to have access to the translation if you need to listen to the translation. If you don't speak German.
Diese Systeme wirklich erfolgreich zu machen. Also du kommst aus Tirol und Österreich, wo dieses duale System eigentlich schon...
We are going to talk about how we can improve the system, because we already have an existing system. These are the current challenges that we're confronted with. Hello, I hope that you can all hear me and understand me. I am delighted to be with you today for this workshop. As was said before, I am going to talk about the practical aspects. Us in Tyrol, we have a forum for trainers. It's an association of trainers for apprentices, and it goes beyond only one company. So we try to promote as much as possible trainings for apprentices. I have a 16-year experience working for an agri-food company. And we have been training apprentices forever in this company. We have trained countless young people, over 240 apprentices in 10 different jobs and positions within the company. So why would a company want to train apprentices? Well, let's take a look at Austria. About 40% of the young people between 15 and 17 decide to opt for work-linked training, or an apprenticeship. Now, why would a company choose to train these apprentices? Well, they need qualified people and staff. If you train
Ich kann davon ausgehen, dass ich einen langjährigen Mitarbeiter gewonnen habe. Und das selber Ausbilden hat natürlich auch den Vorteil, dass ich einen Lehrling, einen Mitarbeiter erhalte, der wirklich genau das kann, worauf es mir drauf ankommt und ich mir somit den eigenen Fachkräftenachwuchs sichere. Der zweite Punkt, der sehr wichtig ist, das ist schon ein bisschen eine gesellschaftliche Funktion. Ich gebe das Wissen von einer Generation zur nächsten weiter. Also das Know-how in meinem Unternehmen geht nicht verloren, sondern es wird eben weitergegeben.
And people can also ensure that the know-how and the knowledge within a company is not lost. There is this transfer of knowledge, and it's a reciprocal learning.
Was auch sehr schön ist,
I often work and talk with trainers, and they tell me that they learn a lot from these trainees and from these apprentices. And thanks to this training, you have this dynamic approach to learning. 50 years back, our positions, our jobs were presented differently than they are today. And secondly, in this context, it's much more important. We have representatives from different countries, and we know that in some countries, on some of these countries, working and training apprenticeships are not very widespread. But in Austria, apprenticeships have a role to play in young people's learning. And it turns out that countries that have these apprenticeships are able to have an early inclusion of young people in the labor market. Therefore, it is a good measure in order to control young people's, the youth unemployment. And I have to say that I love this type of training. And if I know that I can help young people to have access to the labor market, it is very satisfactory for me. And in the second part of my presentation, I would like to talk about what needs to be improved. The previous speaker mentioned a lot of the areas for improvement, but I believe that the key message is cooperation. And to ensure cooperation, we need for these professional vocational schools in Austria, for instance, to cooperate with companies. In Austria, for instance, this is how it works. A company talks with schools to understand what is included in the curriculum. For instance, a salesperson, if there is a complaint from a client, the company is going to see since when the company and the school had been working on this, so how to behave whenever there's a claim from a client. And also there should be more cooperation between different companies, because within a sector, you can have bumps, you can have changes, evolutions. Therefore, schools, professional vocational schools, need to understand the reality and the changes of these jobs. For instance, a baker used to work manually, but nowadays, bakers also need to work with machines. They are assisted by computers, and this is how they produce bread. This is how they make bread. So in 2021, if you want to understand a job, you need to have a macro vision beyond your understanding of a job within a specific company. Now, we also need to look at parents, especially because when the young students are 15, 16, 17, you need to talk to the parents as well, because they're still young. And the Chamber of Commerce, representatives from the Commission, company representatives also can partake in the jury during exams, and it is their role to set the standard, the quality standard. And when a country wants to include a work-linked training or vocational program, they need to understand that companies are the ones that are going to hire these students, these apprentices, and therefore these students will be an added value for these companies because they guarantee the sustainability of the knowledge of these companies. The goal is for the student to obtain his diploma, and therefore these diplomas need to be recognized at international level. Students should be able to pass their exam in Austria and for the diploma to be recognized in Italy, etc., and other countries. So there's more porosity. If we feel that we are training an apprentice and that they're not going to stay in the company, of course, there are concerns. And we see this often. We see apprentices that leave the companies in which they have been trained, but we also see that a lot of apprentices come back. So they go abroad or go to another company to work for another company to acquire new skills and more experience. And then they come back to the company that trained them. And this is why this permeability is really valuable. It's really important for the company that you learn with and also for other companies. Thank you very much, Thomas, for these explanations. Thank you for these explanations, and thank you very much for everything you have said. It is true that companies are often included in this collaboration with professional and vocational trainings. I am going to give the floor to the next speaker. We're going to talk about how we can make sure that diplomas are recognized at international level. Let's talk about the recognition of these diplomas. Mauro, you have the floor again. Thank you very much. Everyone, let us talk about soft skills. Soft skills to improve professional inclusion. I'm going to give the floor to the next speaker to talk about soft skills relevant with the Alpine regions are essential. And we are going to talk about foundations, a research foundation and a training foundation that was created 150 years ago when the province of Trentino-Bolzano was still in Austria. This research is focusing on the importance of technical skills. Technical skills are really important for the growth and the development of our region. And I'm going to give the floor to one of these researchers. And I note that they're going to publish something on soft skills in the coming months and how important they are for our regions. And then we will ask you to fill out a survey. So you have the floor. Thank you very much. First, I would like to make sure that you hear me. Hello, everyone, and thank you for offering me this opportunity to partake in this important workshop on Action 3. I would like to tell you about the importance of soft skills when it comes to apprenticeship and vocational training. And then I will talk about a research project that will take place in 2022 under the umbrella of the Foundation of Market Prental around soft skills. When it comes to training young people. First, I would like to talk about a statement, an observation. Soft skills are essential. They are considered as a multiplier of technical skills, professional skills applied in the professional context. And the fact that they duplicate the skills is essential. This is something that we see more and more. We see it in research projects. We see it thanks to studies, surveys. I would like to give you a few facts and figures. For instance, if we look at the Excelsior Observatory from Uniocamere and the National Agency for Labor Policies in Italy, this study focused on many Italian companies, and soft skills, the soft skills that they looked into for this study are the necessity to be able to adapt oneself. Teamwork, 85% is the second most important. Being able to work autonomously is the number third. Problem solving is the fourth soft skill, the most important. And results are quite similar. And the Friuli region shows us how important soft skills are, and it's the same thing across the country. First, teamwork. Second, being able to adapt. Number three, being able to be flexible. And beyond the fact that we have more and more requests,
sempre le stesse, e quindi su queste credo che sia necessario portare l'attenzione.
The same companies asking for the same soft skills, which means that we need to concentrate and focus on the different skill sets and also integrate them within the different objectives linked to training. And this, for example, workplace training and other issues. There is a lot of work left to be done. We need to be working on soft skills. And when we're talking about soft skills, we're not just talking about the ones that we've mentioned. There are a lot of them linked to literature and reading skills. It isn't something that is set in stone. It should be a training program that should be adaptable to the different participants. For example, I can think about IT skills, but also communication skills, cultural skills, and we have different requests coming in to access workplaces. Green skills are also something else that we're thinking about. Green skills should be cross-cutting because they're linked to sustainability, our ability to work in a sustainable manner. From this point of view, we can also look at an open domain. Nothing is set in stone. This is something that can be quite open. If we then think about soft skills, they're another additional layer of complexity. Why? Because often there aren't systems in place, there aren't programs in place, there is no benchmarking in order to validate these different skills. How do you attest to someone's soft skills, for example? I could think of standards, a syllabus maybe, which would allow us to put together all of the different elements and archive this data linked to soft skills. There are different guidelines that exist, but they are few and far flung. And this is often an obstacle to transparency when it comes to the level of soft skills someone is deemed to have. What are the measures that we have available to us unfortunately, we're still in research phases and we're not able to meet all of the demands that have been placed on us within training, employment, and the labour markets in the Alpine region. The idea would be to identify a series of soft skills that we would be able to document using 2 selection criteria. To start off with, we would be looking at soft skills necessary for our interns. We would be looking at how do you build up not only academic skills in the classroom, but also practical skills in the workplace, and how do you marry the 2 together? This would be a very innovative approach concentrated in the mountainous region, looking at ecosystems, knowledge, skill sets, and so on and so forth. For example, if we want to try and deal with climate change and the impact on the economy in the Alpine region, maybe we could think about the energy transition. How can we think about the future, and how can we intervene before it is too late? What are the different preventative measures that we can put in place in order to protect the Alpine region from the impacts of climate change? This will help us to draw up a work plan. And I think that in this framework, the soft skills once again would come into play. Can we check different systems? Do we have detective measures? Are we able to benchmark and approve best practices in the Alpine region? In order to do so, we would have to study the whole region, and this through a study that we will be launching over the course of the next month. We're looking to validate all of the different soft skills so that we have the right measures in place, looking at all of the different demands. And I remain available for any questions that you may have, and I've finished my part of the presentation. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for sharing everything that you're doing, and also for the perspectives and prospects shared with regards to research in the Alpine region. This for us is something that's very important. Generally speaking, I'm now going to give the floor to Barbara Chen. She will be speaking in English, even though she is bilingual, obviously. 5 or 6 minutes for Barbara, and then we'll be moving on to the last part of the session.
Introduced me. My name is Barbara Kentis, and I'm a teacher at Fondazione Edmund Mack, and I will tell you a little bit about this institution for those of you who don't know it. I'm a teacher of science in English, and I'm also a coach for innovative school methodologies. As I said, I'm going to spend a couple of words talking about Fondazione Edmund Mack because it's the perfect integration of education and research. So this is a very good bridge with this soft skills topic that we are dealing with, especially when it comes to lifelong learning. And it's also a perfect integration of EUSALP because it was an institution that was born as Austrian and now is Italian. And obviously the links and the ties are very strict, very important still nowadays. So I'm going to spend just a couple of words talking about it just as a very first start. This institution, Fondazione Edmund Mack, was born in 1874 because the Diocese of Innsbruck decided to buy the monastery to found an agricultural school and research center for the emerging situation of all these diseases and problems that were coming from America, from agriculture, for the vines especially. So they wanted to kind of boost a little bit the Tyrolean agriculture. And the very first director of this institution back in 1874 was Edmund Mack, which now basically is the person who we have dedicated our Fondazione to. And he was really the one that pushed the connubium between research and school. This perfect example of prehistoric soft skills went on and on until 1919 when the institution became officially Italian. And so the institution basically became part of the Provincia Autonoma di Trento, which is nowadays obviously still an important part of our core business. And it became in the year 2008 Fondazione. And Fondazione means that this oh my God, this institution has 3 centers. So we have a technical school, we have a technical center, a school center, and a research center. I am working for the school center, and the school itself comprises a technical school and a vocational training school. So we also have a dual education system. So it's an integration of different kinds of education paths. I will obviously focus today, for the sake of the time, that is not very much, on the technical school. And I will try to show you how we integrate the soft skills in our curriculum. So we have done a lot work, I think, in these last few years, because we tried to make sure that our students are given the possibility to learn about agriculture and the environment, but also to be prepared for the society and the world that is changing so much nowadays. And that's the reason why soft skills have become an important part of our syllabi and also about the curriculum. The very first set that I would like to focus on is the autonomy of learning and the capacity of planning and organizing. So we wondered, how can we make sure that our students at the technical school can train these soft skills? We did so by organizing outreach projects in the field of agriculture and environment, which obviously are our core businesses. The way it works is that students autonomously or in very small groups implement this project. They have 3 years to do to work on these projects, and they work autonomously with territorial organizations, with farms, with entities of the territory, and they have 3 years to autonomously prepare and get this ready in order to finish it up at the very final stage of the 3 years with a presentation to all the stakeholders. So this is the very first, I think, big achievement that we have done. Another important set of soft skills that we have focused on is the flexibility to work in different contexts. We were aided by the Italian legislation, which basically has introduced some years ago this alternanza scuola-lavoro, which is a work and study period, compulsory for law. And thanks to this law, but also thanks to our vision, we have made it possible for our students to spend 5 weeks doing an internship, which is complemented with visits and exchanges with companies and states. So basically, students have the possibility to see what they learn in class. So it's a hand-on approach. Another set of skills that we've focused on is the lifelong learning and the leadership skills. We've decided to push these 2 soft skills by creating and implementing and contributing to the debate tournaments. For those of you who are not very familiar with debate is a innovative methodology that pushes critical thinking. So basically, students have to take a challenge and they debate around the topic through a specific format, which is set by an organization. It's a very innovative methodology. It's lifelong learning because students have to defend their viewpoints in groups. And it's also a great example of leadership skills because they have roles that they have to impersonificate and they have obviously to defend their vision. Very much connected to this side, yet different, is communication skills and teamwork. We are very proud to be one of the very first schools in the area around here that started more than 10 years ago the implementation of CLIL methodology. CLIL stands for Content and Language Integrated Learning. So basically, our students have the possibility to learn subjects in another language. In our case, they learn history and science coupled with English. And the whole program is following the theories set by the founder of CLIL methodology, which is David Marsh. We make strong use of action verbs. We focus on content. We focus on language. So students basically naturally learn a subject in a foreign language. It took us a long time to implement this methodology because at the very beginning, a lot of people were skeptic, but we've worked really hard and now we have defined the whole program, but above all, we have defined the evaluation system, which is a pact with families. And we're very proud because we have just released our evaluation grade, which is the result of 10 years of work. In this moment,
Your time is over.
Okay, one sentence and then I'm done. Thank you. We are running studies to measure the results of this declination of the soft skills, and I hope very much to be able to present them to you very soon. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Barbara. Passo direttamente la parola a Leonardo Lorusso. Leonardo Lorusso è referente, rappresentante italiano per l'istruzione e la formazione.
Who is looking after training within the Council of Europe. Let me give him the floor right now, and he'll be talking to us about professional training, high-level professional training. Good morning, everyone. We're just changing up seating so that you can see me properly. We are going to be trying to wrap up our discussion here with different key elements linked to the potential of training, employment, and labour markets in the Alpine region. We'll be talking about how important this training is for our students. We have already mentioned this. And without further ado, I'm going to be giving the floor to my two guests who are here with me this afternoon for this final phase. We will be looking at bringing the discussion to a close. We'll be talking about benchmarks not only within Europe, but also across the globe. How can we create bridges between best practices? How can we share these practices, experiments? And we will be listening to two speakers. We're hoping that this training will be a lot more concrete in the future. And this is very important, especially thinking about our territory and the Alps. And this in the framework of the macro region within the Alps. I will be introducing our speakers now. To start off with Matteo Colombo, he is a researcher at ADAPT. He'll be talking about integration and work. He'll be referring to the professional context and how you can penetrate the labour market. The target audience is very important, especially when we're thinking about risk healing following economic breakdown. And then following Matteo, we'll be listening about how to concretize the different measures and steps that have been taken. He'll be sharing experience with us. And we will also have the possibility to have an analytical approach, a model that is being developed in Italy in the framework of technical training and higher education. Matteo, you have the floor. 5 minutes. Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much. The experience that I would like to share with you today is the following. It's actually bringing together everything that we've heard with regards to technical training. I would like to talk about higher education in training. In Europe, this training started. The European training, rather, is very difficult for us to implement in Italy. That said, this is an incredible opportunity for all of the Italian system, for the macro Alpine region, but also within our communities. I would also like to share that you need to have a higher education diploma. It's a 2-year course, and then you have access to a diploma that is recognized on the 4th level of the European qualification framework. In Italy, at the end of the 1990s, this framework was implemented. Therefore, this initiative has been operating in Italy for the past 10 years. Another characteristic that is important to mention, and this is the reason that we're speaking about this today, we're talking about a very interesting characteristic, contrary to what we're seeing in other cases. For example, training. Training is something that is important. 50% of teachers are professionals, which means that they are active professionals, they're in the world of work, they're on the labor market, and they're able to develop an activity that is important. We now move back onto soft skills. Soft skills are acquired thanks to practical experience. We mentioned this earlier. We talk about how important collaboration is, that we can create networks and work both in the workplace, but also in the classroom. These different networks bring together institutions, training institutions, businesses, municipalities. And on a local level, we have 16 of them in Italy. We have all the different dimensions that I've mentioned earlier. And to finish, in Lombardia, we have 20 or 23 foundations that are part of our initiative. There is a fifth looking at summer placement that is also being studied. We have realized that actually there is a lot of synergy in Lombardia between these foundations, the non-academic foundations, but also the different businesses. And especially when we think about training people, why are there only 18,000 people that have subscribed to this? We're going to be studying this. Thank you very much, Matteo, for not having taken up too much time. Without further ado, let's give the floor to our next speaker, who is an economist, Raffaele at the OECD. Raffaele, you have the floor. Good morning, everyone. I'm delighted to be here. Thank you very much for having given me the floor so that I can tell you a little bit about what we're doing at the OECD. As Leonardo mentioned, I am part of training, and what you do with regard to EUSALP is very important on a European level. Education must not be forgotten. Education, soft skills, we've mentioned this several times over the course of today, especially in the digital era and the different changes that we're seeing in our industries and job market. As I was previously mentioned, it's very difficult at the moment to specify exactly which are the technical skills that our new arrivals on the job market need. Because very often that transition between coming out of university and starting work is quite tricky. In the OECD, we talk about the future of work, and we've moved from a linear system where you learn to do something at university, you then go to work and you apply this in the professional world. However, this linear system has become a little bit more slalomed, because we're not just thinking about the technical skills that you need for the workplace, but also the soft skills. How are we able to give the aptitudes, the capacities, the competence that our school leavers need? What's important, and this is the first dimension, is the relationship with the territory. And this is especially important when we think about training, different non-academic training. Why is this important? Because you need to have strong relations between the entity, the community college. And I excuse myself for using the English term in Italian as a speaker. In the Americas, when we see these community colleges, we have different systems and businesses that are taken into consideration. Therefore, we have territorial actors that come into community colleges. They set out exactly the skills that they're looking for, and then different training programs are developed around this. We have community colleges that look at the level of quality on a federal basis, and everything is measured with regards to performance, employability, the salary. Everything is studied and measured with a fine-tooth comb so that we can best understand and determine the value. We also have businesses that come and ask for this information. But if you don't have businesses, what to do? That is the issue. We don't have a system for SMEs, for example. And at this point, I think that we need cross-cutting and cross-boundary training. What does this mean? This means bringing together different entrepreneurs, different businesses, so that everyone can sit around the table and actually specify exactly what they need, so that there is a supply that meets the demand, so that there is economic viability of skills, but also for this approach to be transversal and cross-cutting. We're talking about a new role here that has been given to community colleges, to technical schools, to training schools, training centers, different higher education bodies, so that they're able to better meet the demands of an ever-changing labor market, so that there are real opportunities for territories and those who are studying in them in order to foster development. We are going through historical times. There's a transition underway. The pandemic, COVID, there is a new way of working that will emerge from this situation. All of these factors can be useful in order to favor and foster the transition that we're looking at. And I'm done.